So the Conservative Party of Canada released their full-costed platform today for the 2025 federal election, and despite leader Pierre Poilievre's campaign talk about fighting wokeism, the platform itself largely avoids any gender or sexuality or anti-DEI policies. But there's one concerning line regarding trans women that LGBTQ2S+ Canadians and our allies should watch out for, because it could open the door to the sorts of restrictions on trans people at large that we're seeing in the UK and the US. Under the platform section regarding public safety, the Conservatives pledged to, quote, defend women's safety by repealing Commissioner's Directive 100. Now, Commissioner's Directive 100 was a policy released by Canada's Correctional Services in 2022 designed to preserve the human rights of incarcerated trans and gender diverse people in Canada. It called for training around gender identity for correctional services staff, as well as ensuring that incarcerated people are held in facilities that align with their gender identity. And the directive's purpose is stated as aiming to meet the needs of Canada's prison systems, quote, gender diverse offender population in ways that respect their human rights and ensure their safety and dignity. And to be fair, we already knew that Polyv would push to ban trans women from women's prisons. He said as much last year when he also spoke out against trans women in women's sports bathrooms and change rooms.
Female spaces should be exclusively for females, not for biological males.
And at the time, he acknowledged that many of those spaces are not within federal jurisdiction. So even if he wanted to introduce, say, a trans sports ban, for example, he probably couldn't. So I'll say it makes sense that something like a trans sports ban or school pronoun policies like we've seen at the provincial level are not in the federal Conservative platform. But the second line of that section that is in the platform on trans women in prisons should raise some alarm bells around possible anti-trans policy at the federal level broadly. Because the Conservatives also pledged to, quote, ensure that women's spaces and services remain protected in federal institutions and policy. And that can be taken in a whole lot of ways within the jurisdiction of the federal government. Could we see a federal bathroom ban for government buildings like what happened recently in the US? What about impacts on documentation like passports for trans people? Here's the thing, election platforms are often vague on purpose, because the actual reality of what parties can or cannot do in government can shift a lot. But it's important to know what they're promising, because it could very well pop back up in the coming months and years.